Hi, my name is Susan Jacobson, and the title of my talk is It Takes a Village to Build a Sea Level Rise App. I am from Florida International University, based in Miami, also known as the ground zero of sea level rise in the United States. We created an interactive sea level rise viewer to help citizens understand the potential impact of sea level rise on their homes and businesses. The Sea Level Rise toolbox is pretty easy to use. Here is a map of South Florida. All we have to do is enter an address. So I entered the address for the Miami Beach Convention Center. Perhaps you've been there. It's located in the middle of Miami Beach, which is a barrier island located just off of the Florida mainland. Google elevation tells us that Miami Beach Convention Center is at an average of 5.9 feet elevation, which is actually pretty high for Miami. Let's go to tab 2 to see how sea level rise might impact the convention center. Wow! Okay, what we have here is a little slider that will activate a visualization of sea level rise up to 6 feet. Here I have pushed the slider to the edge of its limits to show 6 feet of sea level rise. Most of Miami Beach is inundated. There is an elevated ridge right along the ocean that is still dry and looks like part of our convention center area is dry, but it might be difficult to get there. Most people have heard that Miami Beach is threatened by sea level rise, but few realize that other parts of Miami are also threatened. This is a screenshot of the city of Doral, which is located about 18 miles east of Miami Beach and where the average elevation is 7.36 feet. Because of the way that water flows in South Florida, it's not just our coastal communities that are threatened by sea level rise, and most Miamians do not realize this. When we show the sea level rise toolbox to average citizens and ask them to enter their address, they are often very surprised to see that they are also vulnerable to sea level rise, even if they do not live near the water. But flooding is not the only potential impact of climate change in South Florida. Here is another example, a map of the Liberty City neighborhood in Miami. With an elevation of 10.18 feet, it is one of the higher areas of South Florida. And, luckily for the residents of Liberty City, their area is minimally impacted by rising seas. As a matter of fact, when we look at Liberty City in the context of Miami-Dade County, we see that Liberty City is one of the few areas of higher ground. And now we have some evidence that Liberty City, one of the poorest areas in South Florida, is experiencing what we call climate gentrification, where developers are buying up properties with an eye toward building upscale housing for wealthier residents, fleeing flood-prone areas. The Sea Level Rise Toolbox is one of FIU's multi-pronged approach to raise awareness of climate change in South Florida and help citizens, government officials, and NGOs adapt to the challenges that we all face. This tool was developed with some of the money we received from the Online News Association Curriculum Challenge Grant in 2014. Our visualization algorithm was developed by the GIS Center at FIU based on sea level rise maps first developed by the late Pete Harlem, a geographer and climate warrior. We worked with local media and civic organizations, including Code for Miami, Hacks Hackers, the Clio Institute, to develop features and design the app. Designers at Fusion created the current tab-based interface, which we implemented at the School of Communication and Journalism at FIU. Developing the app was not without challenges. Sea level rise is a very political topic in Miami. For example, our design reflects some of the political sensitivities. We decided to include the impact of sea level rise by feet, but not by date. We felt that there were too many conflicting models depicting how high the sea was going to rise between now and the end of the century, and no matter which one we chose, we would be open for criticism. In designing the app, we focused on ease of use by non-scientist citizens. For example, where it says your elevation is 2.32 feet, we pull data from Google Elevation to make that point. On the other hand, we use LiDAR topography information to create the sea level rise visualization. Some scientists have complained that the two data sets, Google Elevation and LiDAR, are incommensurable. However, we think that it makes sense to a lay audience, and we do provide some detailed explanation about the differences in our About section. We received some local, regional, and national press attention for the app. Here's the Weather Channel. The app was cited in a New Yorker article by Elizabeth Colbert. It was featured in a piece by Fusion for the Miami Beach Centennial, and just this year, CNN linked to it during the presidential primary election in Florida. Local press coverage usually increases during the king tide flooding. Some of our alumni used the data on the map to show which condos in Miami could be vulnerable. We have used the app in conjunction with the Clio Institute to help educate citizens about the impact of climate change on their neighborhoods. And we have added a form to the app so that citizens may document sunny day flooding events that occurred during our king tides. These flooding events are directly tied to sea level rise. Right now, the Sea Level Rise Toolbox is a web-based application. We are seeking new partnerships and funding to create a native iOS and Android versions of the app and to improve and add upon the current functionality of the app. Thanks for listening!